So I really appreciate that. No, it's great to be here. And I do want to thank, it's quite a nice thing to do what we call the Hesburgh Lecture Series at Notre Dame, where we get to travel around the country and be hosted by a Notre Dame club and a local university. So I'm really happy to be able to participate in this connection between the Notre Dame alums of Fairfield County and Sacred Heart University. I have a fondness for Connecticut in my heart. I happen to be working on a little restoration really, of a church that some of you have passed, maybe some of you every day on Route 95, St. Mary's in Norwalk. So I come up here once in a while for that. But I had the pleasure to study 25 years ago up the road in New Haven. And even better than that, met my beloved wife there. So Connecticut's a very, very important place for me and my family, and we love coming back here, even in March. No, it's great to be back here. Beautiful, beautiful state, and if I could afford it, I'd move back here in a minute. So you all are very lucky to be here. And since we're in Lent, if I get this right, is that really the best? Yeah. No? Huh. Thought it got a little darker than that. Well, that might be the best we get. Can you see the screen? Yeah. Kind of. Well, since we're in Lent, I thought we would connect to one of those great Lenten traditions, fasting, confession. No, I won't say anything. I won't confess my sins in front of you. But there's a great tradition in Rome of the Lenten churches. And in the medieval period, it was a way for the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, to go out to a different church every day during Lent. And in recent generations, that has been restored. The Pope doesn't go out every day, but one of the cardinals does, and begins at Santa Sabina on Ash Wednesday, where the Pope goes and says Mass and actually gives out ashes. Today, the dedication is Thursday, the second week of Lent, is to one of my favorite churches in Trastevere, Santa Maria in Trastevere. Has anyone ever been there? Really a knockout gem, like so many churches in Rome, built over many years. But I thought, here's the wonderful piazza, and the interior has granite columns that in the medieval period were put up that were actually from one of the Roman baths, reused. As you know, in the good old days, people had to be sustainable and green, and they didn't have a choice about it. Now we have a choice. And one of the ways to do that in architecture was to reuse things. But that's our Lenten church today. Now, one of the things that's very interesting, since we're on a college campus, to talk about is it's to talk about sacred architecture, talk about architecture, and actually, I think that college campuses are one of the places where it's really playing out. The debate, the discussion, the different ideas about contemporary architecture today. And that's not surprising, because that's what we think of for our universities as places of debate, discussion, where people think, where they debate ideas, where they propose new ideas, old ideas, what have you. And this happens, when I say debate, I'm talking about buildings that go up. And the buildings are part of this discussion. Not just lectures and written forms. And perhaps the school that most embodies this is a little college founded, I think, as the College of New Jersey down the road a little piece, Princeton. And at Princeton, a couple of years ago, they made a decision that because of how important the identity of the campus was to people and to their the architecture of the campus was such a big part of the identity of the campus that they actually made a decision that all of the residential buildings, which were connected to home and how people lived and fostering community and the college life within the university, that they would be traditional. Princeton did this. Princeton University, down the road. And so you see Whitman College. Major gift was by the founder of eBay, Meg Whitman, and it was only $120 million and, for a dormitory. And it's a very nice set of buildings. Across campus at the same time was the quite well-known Frank Gehry, architect of the Bilbao Museum and many other things around the country and the world, highest paid architect in the world today, and very successful for his concert halls, museums, et cetera, et cetera. He did this Lewis Library at Princeton. The cost per square foot of both of these buildings is the same. Now you can take that either way. You can say, well, that's stone and stone and stone, and that looks expensive, or you can say that's titanium and glass and brick, and that looks expensive. But they're both expensive buildings, but they're same cost per square foot. So this debate about campus architecture is pretty interesting because it is a microcosm of what's going on in the profession. Now, up the road a little ways at one of the colleges up the street in New Haven, there is an even grander project to outdo Princeton. Have you ever heard of that happening before? And so Yale has embarked on not one new dormitory, but 2 new dormitories. And if you know the colleges at Yale, I think they're some of the finest campus architecture in this country. And they're each different, and they each have a dining hall, and they each have a library, and they each wish they had a chapel, like Notre Dame, and which is what our dorms all have. And they have towers, and they have amazing spaces, and great rooms. And so they're embarking on they don't really want to admit it, but $400 to $600 million set of dormitories. Wow. And the goal is actually to let more students into Yale. There's so many kids that want to go to Yale and that are qualified to go to Yale that they're actually, for the first time in decades, expanding the student body, which is really nice for a place that has a $35 billion endowment to think about think about that opportunity for students. So anyways, Bob Stern, who is the dean of the School of Architecture at Yale, is doing these, and they're a pretty amazing set of buildings. In a sense, following the Princeton argument that residential buildings should be traditional. The 2. Do you know Yale campus? And do you know the famous Stiles and Morrison Stiles colleges by the only modernist colleges at Yale? Except for the architects, they're generally considered second class. So that's kind of across the board. Even Vincent Scully, when he became Masters of Styles, said, "I really wished I'd been at Branford." And he was a modern architectural historian. It's true. And most of the architects that I know that lived in one of those places said, "Yeah, I really wished I had stayed in something else, Davenport or something." So anyway, they're building 2 new quadrangles, colleges at Yale. Pretty amazing buildings, $400 or $500 million. Wow. So that's kind of that's one of the things that's going on in campus architecture. And now Notre Dame also has participated in this in our own way. These are actually 2 buildings designed by a Connecticut architecture firm, SLAM, out of Hartford. And this is our new $70 million science hall. We don't believe just in the dormitories, but even in the other buildings. They want everything to be neo-Gothic at Notre Dame, except for the stadium. And so this is our new science hall, the Jordan Science Hall. And then recently completed is the new law school. I think it was only 50 or 60 million. And very much picking up on things from Notre Dame, as well as looking at campus collegiate architecture. So that's some of what's going on in the campus architecture world, at least some minor colleges on the East Coast and a football school in the Midwest, what they're doing. And of course today we're here to talk about sacred architecture, and that's a topic close to my heart, and I'll I'll segue into another building at Notre Dame, which is our beloved Basilica of the Sacred Heart, to get the connection. We planned it that way, no, but it's a nice connection. Basilica of the Sacred Heart, built in the 1880s, beloved by the alums. I've met many alums at these functions who tell me this is the finest church in all the world. Chartres, St. Peter's, better than that, better than that. Well, if you go to Notre Dame, they indoctrinate you. I mean, you just fall in love with the place. And it's a wonderful building and has many lessons, I think, and a soaring tower and so on. But in recent decades, we've actually had a number of major architects doing small chapels in the 300 to 500